Assalamu alaikum students. Hope you all are fine. Today we are going to start with our first lesson of grade 8 S.St, which is history, when, where and how. Now before I start the lesson, we will just recall what we have learnt in our grade 6 and grade 7. So can you tell me what we have learnt in grade 6 and 7 about history, when, where and how? Yes, in grade 6 we learned about the ancient history, and grade 7 we have learned about the medieval history. Now, today in grade 8 we are going to learn about the modern history. In today's lesson, we are going to see what is the history of British India, colonization of India, major developments in India under colonial rule, then the sources of modern Indian history. Now let's start with the first part of the lesson, British periodization of Indian history. In the 19th century, when the British historians they started writing the history of India, they showed little appreciation of Indian society, economy, and politics before the arrival of the British to India. Ancient and the medieval India were regarded as the periods when there had been no change or no development between the ordinary people. They were just toiling away under the generations of cruel rulers. Then, in addition, there were several other social practices also, such as sati, lower caste system, like the Brahmins, they used to uh, say that they are the upper caste and the untouchables they are the lower caste. They were not allowed to worship the temples and all. Then the lower caste for women. Thus, you can say that the pre-British period, according to the Britishers, was a dark period of Indian history. And as the modern period of Indian history began, they completely ignored the issues such as the day to day life of people, how they earn their livings, and the type of food they produce. The British thinker and historian James Mill, in his book of the history of British India, which was written by him in 1817, he announced or said that the pre British period and glorified the British rule in India. He has divided the Indian history into three periods: Hindu, Muslim, and the British period. While the Hindu and the Muslim period were identified with everything that obstruct the growth of the Indian society, the British period was seen as the dawn of modern civilization, characterized by egalitarian. Egalitarian means what? Believe in the equality of all people. After that, in the British period, a number of changes took place that completely transformed or changed the life of the people. These changes were urbanization, development of fast means of transport, and communication. New industrial techniques also developed during this period. These Britishers were also regarded as responsible, or they were also responsible for introducing a uniform and a modern administrative structure in the country. But later, the historians they questioned such a periodization of Indian history. They regarded or they told that James' division was full of drawbacks. They challenged Mill's periodization and pointed out that the British period was not all that enlightened in this history, in this book. Now we come to the next part, that is colonization of India. When a country is ruled by another country, it leads to many political, economic, social, and cultural changes in the former. This particular process is called as colonization. I will repeat the same definition again. When a country is ruled by another country, it led to many different political, economic, social, and cultural changes in the former. This process is called as colonization. And when a country which is ruled by another country, it is called a colony. And the country which rules is called the imperialist country. Like example, India was ruled by the Britishers. So the Britishers, their country will be the ruler, and India will be the colony. The main purpose of colonization for the imperialist country was to make maximum profit by exploiting the economy of its colony. After that, the industrial revolution it started. England's industrial production it increased at a large scale within a short span of time, within less time you can say. The need to control the territories that would serve as the market for their products and supply resources to support their industries resulted into colonization of many non-European countries by England. This is how India became a colony of India. This is how India became a colony of England. Let us now see how this happened. After a royal charter which was granted by Queen Elizabeth I of England in 1600 CE, a group of English traders they founded the EEIC, English East India Company. You have read in your class 7 that how Thomas Roy, the envoy is ambassador of King James I of England, got the trading rights from the Mughal Emperor Jahangir for the merchants of EEIC. Then, about a century later, Farooq Siyar, one of the successors of Jahangir, he granted important trading rights to English merchants through a royal farman. Farman means orders. This picture you can see is the headquarters of EEIC in London. After the victory in the Battle of Plassey in 1757, the EEIC started exercising political control over India. Then soon most of the regions of Indian subcontinent, they became a part of British colony. Thus, this way, the colonial period in Indian history, which continued till India's independence, that is before till 1947. Now let's learn about the major developments during the colonial rule. The major developments in India under colonial rule includes political development, economic changes, social changes, Indian nationalism, and cultural changes. Let us now study these developments in detail. Let us come to the first major development which took place during the colonial rule, which was political development. After the establishment of the British Indian Empire marked the most significant political change during the colonial period. In 1757, the Indian subcontinents, they were divided into large and small kingdoms and provinces. Then after over the next 190 years, the Britishers established their direct rule over large part of India, and they maintained a strong indirect rule over all other local kingdoms, which came to be known as the princely states. Till 1857, the EIC ruled the conquered territories in Indian subcontinents. Means till 1857, the EEIC ruled the areas or the land of Indian subcontinents which were conquered by them. After 1857, the British Crown exercised direct control over them till 1947, till India didn't got its independence from the colonial rule. The establishment of a constitutional, administrative, legal, military, and political structure through which the British ruled India was also an important development, or you can say important political development during colonial period. Now we come to the next part, that is economic change. The first important development in the economic sphere or economic change was in the land revenue system. Land revenue was the most important source of income for the British government. These British officials, they surveyed the countryside and they fixed the land revenue according to the land, and it was very high rates, leading to hardship, frequent famine, and rebellions in the country. Initially, the main items which were taken from India and sold in the British country or in Britain was were spices, calico. Calico is a plain woven cotton textile. Then fine cotton cloth called muslin. These items were in great demand in Britain, and they were usually paid for in bullions or silver. Bullion means large quantity of gold or silver before coins. You can say bars of gold and silver. Many Indians they were forced to cultivate opium. Opium is a type of seed, poppy seed, that was then exported to the British by the British to China in exchange of tea. The main purpose of EEIC, East India Company, was only to promote trade of its own products manufactured in England. After that, when India became a full fledged colony, it exported raw materials such as jute and cotton to England for the British factories, which were in Scotland and Manchester. Then these finished goods were sold back to Indians at a very high price or higher rates, at which raw materials were than those of which the raw materials were bought from India. Means they used to buy the raw materials at a very low cost and they used to sell the finished goods at a very high cost. Overall, trade, which was in favor of India in the beginning, became increasingly unfavorable. The another change that came about during this period was deindustrialization. Deindustrialization means destruction of traditional industries such as weaving, pottery, iron smelting, and brass work, which often posed a challenge to British traders and manufacturing. Now we come to the next change, important change of this period, that is the social change. Some important social changes that took place during this period were the issues of caste system, tribal societies, treatment meant out for women. After the widespread of the reform movements led by social reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Dayanand Saraswati, and Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, some significant laws were passed by the British government, like banning of sati, encouragement to widows' remarriage, framing of legislation to prevent child marriage, and regulation to educate girl child. These were some important social changes which took place in this period. Another important set of social change that occurred with change in the educational system was that the Britishers they required now if it is related to education system, what it could be. Now the Britishers slowly they conquered the whole India and they started putting up their factories, industries. So what will be the next step now of the Britishers? The Britishers they required a large number of people who can run their administration, their industries, their companies. So therefore they made a serious effort to educate the people, which led to the birth of English educated middle class of India. This not only produced bureaucrats and administrators at the service of the British rulers, but also some of the outstanding leaders of the Indian national movement. So that's all for the day. We will continue the remaining part of the lesson in the next session. Before that, we will just sum up what we have learnt today. Today, in this part of the lesson, we learnt about the periodization of Indian history, then about the British thinker and historian James Mill, what he wrote about the history of India in his book History of British India, then the colonization of India. We have learned that what is colonization, colony, imperialist country, then how the Englands or the Britishers, the East India Company, it was founded and they came to India. After that, we have learned the major developments which took place during this period, like the political development, economic changes, and social changes. So, we'll meet you in the next session. Thank you.